what is sticking us more than anything else is that we are greater than we're allowing ourselves to know. We are miraculous.
Mm.
You are miraculous. And everything that's been showing up that way is a lie that we have bought from the world we live in. Us trying to believe somehow that the less we make ourselves, somehow it elevates others, and nothing could be further from the truth. If we would recognize that there's a gift in choosing to have a life of ease and joy, and choosing to have a life in which we have those things that we would really like, that would really fulfill us, to allow those to show up, that's the greatest gift to us, and it's the greatest gift to the world. Now's the time. Let's go there.
Right,
You
exactly.
know?
Yes, yes. If we can learn how to just be with ourselves, the parts that we hide, the part that we want to stuff and suppress, we can be with anyone's stuff. And there, for me, is really the magic of where I am in my life right now. It's also given me so much more capacity. And what does that mean? Compassion. What does that mean? Light. What does that mean?
Mm.
Infinite possibility. And then as we are growing in our own capacity, we have the beauty of being able to recognize where someone else might be on theirs without being hierarchical or
Yeah.
judgmental or condescending. And therein lies a whole bunch of other threads, right?
Exactly.
Well, hey there. This is an intro before the intro because when I hit record with my guest today, we just kind of dropped right in, but I did not get a chance to share about who he is and the legacy that he has lived and what an inspiring conversation this truly is. So, oh man, let me just give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to who we're going to hang with today. Dr. Dain here. He is a best-selling author, international speaker, co-creator of Access Consciousness, and the visionary behind Being You, Changing the World. His work has reached hundreds of thousands globally, yet at the heart of all of it is one simple truth. When we trust the whisper of our own knowing, we unlock what's truly possible. This conversation lit something within me that there was a knowing, a remembrance of that it really can be as light as we choose for it to be. This is so in alignment with a lot of what we've been talking about recently around this embodied ascension. And so this conversation really weaves a lot of really powerful insights and practices to come back into our own power, into our own light, and from living from that expanded state without the woo, without the disembodiment or the bypassing. And so I think you're going to enjoy this conversation as much as I did. And so without further ado, please enjoy this chat with Dr. Dain here. Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Fire and Soul, the space to deepen into your divine alignment and further activate your inner awakening. And that's exactly where we get to flow today. I am so stoked. I'm not even going to wait. Dr. Dain, welcome to Fire and Soul.
Michelle, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's such a joy already. And so just to let you know, because we didn't talk about this before I hit record, I will weave back with some highlights of the conversation, but I'm excited to just drop in with you with whatever is most juicy and alive for you in this moment.
Oh, girl, girl, girl,
Girl.
girlfriend. Oh, here's what I would like to say to people. We are miraculous.
Hmm.
You are miraculous. And everything that's been showing up that way is a lie that we have bought from the world we live in, the people around us, us trying to believe somehow that the less we make ourselves, somehow it elevates others, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Hmm.
And if we would recognize that there's a gift in choosing to have a life of ease and joy, and choosing to have a life in which we have those things that we would really like, that would really fulfill us, to allow those to show up, that's the greatest gift to us, and it's the greatest gift to the world. And from my point of view, now's the time. Let's go there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Are you feeling the intensities? Is this a language that is part of
Oh,
your, the light, the
mm,
frequency, just how fast everything is? I mean, I feel like I'm being greatly supported right now in the best possible ways. It's a divine frequency.
truly. And on the other side of that is the anti-divine frequencies that
Yes.
are that others are living from, trying to perpetrate on everybody, et cetera. And who cares? It's like,
Truly.
because the way you go beyond the structure of an unkind reality, the way you go beyond this reality in its current form is by ignoring it and creating yours.
Yeah.
And we keep thinking, because there's simultaneously this awareness of the support that is there, the contribution, the movement, the change, the speed of all that, and the much greater ability to receive it much faster. And then simultaneously, there's, let's see, how many wars can we have in a weekend? It's like, oh. And so, but there's a lot of us that care so much about the world and the people in it and our planet and its future that we think we're duty bound to fight against
Yeah.
all of this drama, darkness, whatever you want to call it. But in actuality, it's when you're willing to ignore it, because the only way when you go to fight against something, it is you have to play on its level. If instead you're willing to rise above it and create the joy is possible, and you're an inspiration for others to know that's possible. And it's not just about others, and it's also not just about us. It's that intersection where us choosing more lightness, more joy, more awesomeness, more possibilities is the space which actually contributes to all of us knowing it's possible.
Yeah, beautifully said. I'm with you. And I noticed that, of course, we're recording what third week into June here, and yeah, the strikes in Iran, but that's just one of honestly so many different things that we could highlight if we chose, right? And I don't really want to weigh them out because they're all awful. And yet, what I noticed when everyone seemed to be getting so activated is I was like, my heart is so open. And I
Right.
remembered something that really changed me about a year ago, and it was an open heart does not flinch. And I'm not always good at that, but I'm much better these days from going in and being with myself and what the lights show us if we're willing. And but then it's like, okay, great. It really does increase our capacity to hold the light, right? That is infinite in nature. And so I was like, wow, it's not that I don't care. I'm compassionate. I'm empathetic. And yet my heart is so open. And I felt like it was a really important contribution to the collective.
Absolutely. And that is exactly that. That is the contribution. And the other interesting part is that's actually true caring. We think caring is, oh, you're doing drama. Let me align and agree with you. Let
Mhm.
me climb into the trenches and fight alongside you. But in that, now we have two people fighting,
Yeah.
and we're still fighting against something that fighting will never change. And we got to recognize that fighting against never changes what you're fighting against. If you're going to fight, fight for possibilities. And I would suggest choose four possibilities, but some people need to have a fight. So why don't you fight for possibilities instead of against drama, against evil, against insanity, and recognize that that changes it.
Yeah.
Because when we align and agree, when we resist and react, we're in reaction. And reaction, you can either be in reaction or you can be in action.
Mhm.
Action changes the world. Reaction perpetrates the world we currently have that isn't working for any of us.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I just a little story that I put up on my stories a few days ago in the midst of it, and it was like, what if it's not left versus right? What if it's reaction versus remembrance?
Yeah.
Which then of course infuses and informs into the action, that divine right action that hopefully, I mean, I imagine you and I are in alignment for what's in the best for all, right? The highest and best for all. So, what a beautiful way to start. But I have to say, I don't know what's happening behind you, but I've seen in your stories all these little itty bitty rainbow colored dragons. So, I don't
Yeah.
know that. What is it?
Well, it's an
Cute.
interesting thing. As many people have, I got a 3D printer,
Okay,
a
yes.
while ago. And one of the first things I wanted to print was a Flexi Dragon. So I printed one and it was so beautiful. And I brought it out, and my house manager, who's just this wonderful lady, she's like, people will want these. You should sell these. I was like, really? Okay. So I started printing them and making them available for people at our classes. And the very first class, there were these people who took them home, and they're like literally, I have I have only been doing this a few months, and I have hundreds of stories of people who are saying literal magic occurring in their lives from having these things. So that's my background is, I don't know if people are watching or listening, but my background is dragons, and I'm a bit of a dragon daddy at this point. So I even created a business around it now, selling dragons. I have Dr. Dain's dragons,
Oh
and
my God.
but it's interesting when you are willing to surround yourself with magical creatures,
Yeah.
and whether they're people or dragons or whatever they happen to be, there's so much magic in our world, and it's actually practical to function from magic. It's, practical magic. That's us. And, I can say that to your audience and they will get it. But most places in the world, you sound like some crazy freak or weirdo. I'm like, well, yeah, I am a crazy freak and a weirdo who sees and creates miracles every day. So I'd rather be a crazy freak and a weirdo than not, given the conditions that are possible. So,
Yeah, so beautiful. So resonate fully. Yes, I call myself a little fairy, a nature fairy, an angel fairy, and the world is magical and the trees talk to me and it's a whole other way of being. And this really only opened up the past 2 years. But I can only imagine where we get to go, and so
uh-huh,
yeah, right? I'm like, woohoo!
uh-huh.
It's it's such a gift.
We're just getting started. What else is possible?
I know. Oh my goodness. I have so many things I want to ask you.
Okay, cool.
I feel like we're already in it, but I do want to kind of like, you have so many beautiful little zingers, right? Magical zingers, including you like to offer people to contemplate on the most powerful question, which is, what's right about me that I'm not getting? Can we put it into context with these times? And let me give perspective real quick. You're like, wait, I just want to go. But
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think a lot of people, especially those who might tune into Fire and Soul, and it might be because of me saying some things in recent episodes, which is that the mirror is out, our work is up. I'm in menopause, so that's been my journey. So I'm going to project that onto you, right? Like, so we get to play there for a moment, right? I'm fully aware. But it does seem that there are a lot of other people talking about how everyone's work is up, unhealed wounds are up. And so that feels very real, but at the same time, we don't need to dwell, we don't need to exist there. But somehow it's like, what's right about me that I'm not getting? Could we somehow give that a little bit of context within that sphere?
Oh, absolutely. And I want to say something. The one thing that will change everything that isn't working is more consciousness.
Yeah.
Consciousness is more awareness. We have a definition in Access Consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. So
Mm.
every technological innovation is more consciousness. You getting aware of where you're sticking yourself, more consciousness. You getting aware that you don't have to stick yourself, more consciousness. You becoming miraculous, more consciousness. Us creating a sustainable living earth is only going to occur in the presence of more consciousness. So what if the journey that we're on and consciousness is also synonymous with total awareness. So, what if the journey that we're on is to get to total awareness with no judgment? Whether that's the awareness of how great we are that we haven't been choosing, and there are thousands of levels of that, the awareness of where we've been sticking ourselves or the points of view that we still have that are we're carrying with us, because your point of view creates your reality. Reality does not create your point of view. So, but the difficulty is about 99.99999,000% of our points of view are not cognitive.
Mhm.
And we think if I have a point of view, it should go through my head so I can see it, so I can understand this is my point of view. But most of them are hidden. Well, how do we start changing when we have a hidden point of view? One of the ways is being with things, but another is to well, it's not just changing our hidden points of view, but opening up a doorway to different possibilities occurs with a question, not a judgment or a conclusion, because any judgment or conclusion you come to, you're right. You're stuck with that now. So a lot of people in the realm of, see, it's also a bit uncomfortable at first to become more aware
Mhm.
because you're aware of all the warts in people's worlds energetically they didn't see before. You're aware of them walking on broken glass energetically. And a lot of that you will pick up on energetically, and a lot of it you will think is yours. But also, if you can't be the change
Mm,
on whatever level that you think you should be, you'll go dynamically to the wrongness of you. And
mm,
so, this question, what's right about me, I'm not getting, is about antidoting the wrongness that most of us find ourselves living with,
mm,
at least some of the time, if not a lot of the time. And the idea of a question is it always opens up another door of possibilities that seemingly was shut before. A conclusion basically puts concrete over the door so you can't ever find the door. And so if we're willing to start asking more questions, like what's right about me I'm not getting? What else is possible here I've never considered? How
mm,
does it get any better than this?
mm.
What are the
That's one of my
infinite
favorite questions.
possibilities?
How does it
Yeah,
get any better than this? And then you just get to keep looking. It's the same
yeah,
principle of like, what's right about me that I'm not getting?
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a gift we give to ourselves of being willing to choose a different perspective. Because it's
Mm,
each of us that chooses our points of view about us,
hmm.
which even that concept, we could spend an entire podcast on just that one concept because we live in a world where we don't think we really have choice. We think the world is happening to us.
Right.
But consciousness is about getting aware that if something is occurring, I've got some point of view that is allowing it to occur.
Hmm.
Even if I'm not directly choosing, yes, punch me in the face right now, what I have chosen is points of view about I deserve it, or I'm trying to heal this person, or whatever it is. There's some reason why everything is going on. And if we can start to ask more questions, we can start to open up the space beyond logic to actual possibilities that we can't fathom could exist before. And then we can go beyond the structures, the ways that we've created things that don't work, but we keep repeating them.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to put a pin there because I know we're going to circle back because we're going to get into some conversation around trauma and not necessarily having to relive it. But I want to also really honor your background and you being just a young little lad and recognizing as a newly minted chiropractor that there was a whole language that you were beginning to see called energy and that it was essential for the healing journey. Can you walk us through those early days? And do you still have a practice or
Ooh, no, I haven't had practice for 24 years, I think,
just
actually.
catching up over here? Don't mind me.
Yeah. Hey, hi. Nice to see you.
How you
Yeah.
been for 2.5 decades?
Right. Where have you been? Um, yeah, so I went to chiropractic school because I knew of chiropractors who were creating miracles with people. Like they could go to them with anything and get some change, if not completely change it. And it was so cool. And I was like, I want to do this, right? This is what I want to do in the world. And as I graduated and started having people come to my practice, I realized I was not having that result at all. Simultaneously, I was in a relationship where I thought she was the perfect person for me. And it turns out that she wasn't. She was in judgment of me all the time. I had no idea. Anyway, I'd been unhappy for the better part of 3 years. And I'd only had my practice, I think, about a year at that point. And I'm a seeker. I was doing everything that I could to find something different because I knew other possibilities had to exist. But I was unhappy for almost 3 years. I finally got to a point after a weekend workshop where I thought everything was great. And then the universe crashed in on my head again on Wednesday, and I felt like I'd lost everything again. And I finally went, Universe, I'm done. Either my life actually changes or I'm out of here. And I set a date 6 months in the future to get out of here. I was going to end my life. And then I came across something called Access Consciousness Bars. I saw a little ad for it. I called, I had a session, and in an hour and 15 minutes of this lady putting her hands on my head, I went from depressed and suicidal to gloriously grateful to be alive and
Mm,
happy
mm,
in an hour and 15 minutes. And
mm,
I had the experience of it. It wasn't just the mental thing of I can make this happen. I can make this happen. Forget it. I can't make it happen. And I was like, wow, if it feels this way to be alive, I'm in. Well, that was Access Consciousness Bars. Shortly after that, so I started doing this every week. And every week, the girl that would run my bars would give me a tool to use. She would say, hey, whenever things go from light, because what's true makes you light, a lie makes you heavy. Boom. So whenever anything goes from light to heavy, just use this tool and see how it goes. So now, not only did I have this thing where every time I got my bars, it felt like my personal space, the space I could occupy, expanded. And
Hmm.
I finally had a sense of having some space after not for so long. But not only that, when the space wanted to contract because something would come up in real life,
Hmm.
because I was fine as long as I was in the classroom with the people doing the meditation or the tantra or the spiritual journey or whatever. That was great. But in the trenches of life, I felt like I was totally unequipped and unprepared, except with these tools, I would use them and it would change it and I would have that lightness again. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that lightness was like mother's milk. It was the thing I was seeking. And that, so I started exploring that. I met the founder of Access and he said, "Hey," he came for a session in my chiropractic office. He said, "Look, the first two levels of what you do don't work on me. Ask my body what it wants. You'll know what to do." And there was this energy that came through that felt like I can't even explain it, but every time I think about it, it was like liquid light, peace, and miracles. It was like where everything was possible.
Mm.
And he was the first person who ever said, "You will know what to do." And what came out of that was something I now call ESB, energetic synthesis of being, but it's a way of working with people and bodies to allow them to transform what isn't working for them in their bodies. But it's from this different and really beautiful space of the acknowledgement of their being and their body and what we really are beyond all the judgments and points of view that we've heaped on us and our bodies. And so I've been exploring that in Access Consciousness for the last 25 years, creating tools sometimes daily that help people get into more of that space of being alive and joy.
Yes, alive and joy. I shared with you my coffee mug. I am a ray of fucking
Yes.
sunshine. I mean, I'm kind of really into sort of, a lot of different realms showing up in my field right now and connecting with me. It feels really benevolent and I'm, yeah, highly discerning. But yeah, I know that my star lineage is the central sun. I feel so connected to the sun right now. I feel so connected to joy and light and love. And this is coming off of like 9 months, which is a perfect amount of gestational time of a pretty intense dark night of the soul. I mean, I still made it. My business
Uh-huh.
became spacious enough for me to be able to do what I needed to do. But I'm just so curious because everything that you're talking about here, it's like a love soul language, star language I know. But at the same time, there's this other very curious piece in me around, but what about the trauma? What about the sacred wounds? So, how do we bridge that?
Mm,
Integrate, walk with, whatever your language is. I had more questions before we got there, but I think I want to just go there.
cool. Well, here's the thing. What do I what do you want to know about that?
Okay,
Because I mean,
thanks.
I can talk around it, but what do you want to
Yeah.
know about it?
Okay, I want to know how important is it, or is it even important and or essential that as many are saying these times have the mirror that is out and all of our unhealed wounds, this shadow to light moment that the collective is in, we can see it on the external. Do we take a moment to just be with what's on site inside? Now, you, I believe, not to say that we're ever completely healed and have arrived. We're human, but I don't know how far back this is for you, right? But like people coming through your stuff now and just like, wow, it's uncomfortable. It's confrontational. There's the
Mm,
unraveling and the identity loss and I'm feeling pretty untethered, right? And so what's the point? A lot of that energy. And at
yeah.
the same time, for me, when I go in there and I can be with like, oh, when did that start? How long has this been happening? Could it then it's like I feel so much more integrated and whole. And then my light feels authentic because I've met the darkness. But that's my language, that's my process, that's my journey. So my question is what I want to know is that how it has to be? Is there a way in which to not have to meet the shadow in order to experience the light, or would that be considered bypassing?
I love the question, and I would say both. And it really depends on how we have hardwired these things in our own personal way.
Yeah.
And I really would like to acknowledge that there are some things that need to be addressed They need to be addressed as the trauma they were, as the pain they created, or the pain we have been living from them. Because we've also got to recognize for a pain to exist, we have to have a point of view.
Yep.
And a lot of times they're once again, this is one tiny subject we could spend the entire podcast on and then do 12 more on the same thing because this particular area has so many elements to it. Like, for example, I experienced a lot of abuse. I experienced sexual abuse. I experienced physical abuse. I experienced emotional abuse. I experienced being hated, in the house, in two of the houses I lived in. Okay, well, did that have an impact? Yeah. And in being willing to be present with all of it,
Mhm.
what I also recognized was the strength that I had to not only endure it, but to continue to look for possibilities
Yeah.
and not ever give up on everything I knew was possible. And so I'd like to say to everybody listening, we tend to, based on what we've experienced, think that we're somehow a lesser being and that's why this occurred, or I am really evil like they said I was, and this is why. No. If you experienced abuse, if you've experienced meanness, if you've experienced judgment and are still going, you have a level of strength and power that if you just don't give up on it and just keep going, do not stop, you will have and create everything you desire. You will find the tools. And they are out there and they are available in all kinds of forms. And simultaneously, I want to acknowledge that along with getting the freedom has to be the acknowledgement of our current point of view of its impact, our current point of view of the pain and suffering or the limitation it's caused. Because the only thing we can't change is the thing we keep hidden,
Yeah.
the thing we have to keep secret, the thing we have to avoid or defend against anybody seeing. Why would we do that? Well, if we're talking in the case of any abusive scenario, see, we're energetic beings, and a lot of this happened at a time before we had formulated our sort of cognitive view of the world. So it was directly energetic without walls and barriers for the most part. And we'll find ourselves repeating it as we get later in life because it became a part of the basis for what we consider being alive here. Sorry, that was a bit of a side note there,
No, but
but
I totally tracked. Thank you.
cool. So, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because if we can recognize that, like you were saying, like when did this occur? How old am I being? Like how old was this? What did I do? And if we were in an access consciousness class, we would expand upon that and go in some other specific directions with some specific tools. But if we can recognize that one of the elements of us experiencing something like this is that a lot of times we were around people who needed an intense amount of healing. And a lot of times we were the only one or thought we were the only one that could provide it. And because there's a lot of people that I worked with, like I worked with one lady who was abused, beaten, molested by her father. And it was interesting because for a long time she was victimized. She was playing the victim role, very seldom creating money or happiness or relationships. It worked. Came to an access class and we had a conversation. The founder of Access, Gary, and I were, and what we asked her was, so question, are you a healer? Yes. Do you have the ability to heal abuse? Oh, yes. Okay, so explain to me what happened. Well, what happened was she was the older sister. She actually allowed her father to abuse and molest her to protect her two younger sisters.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying that's the case with everybody, and I also am not diminishing anyone's experience. Please, 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 please get that. I I am not saying that about any of us. I want to acknowledge the experiences that we have. But the one thing that I found in working with hundreds of thousands of people around the world in 25 years is not one time has anyone ever gotten set free by finding out that they were less than they thought or more of a victim than they thought.
Right.
The only thing that ever sets us free is a recognition that though we may have been playing a victim, there's a level of potency that I have, and there's a level of something my being chose that is beyond my mind's ability to fathom. And how do I know when somebody is getting a change like that? Because, like you were pointing out, that can be very confrontational to people, or at least very challenging to be present and vulnerable with. I know the change is occurring because number one, I see their face change, but I ask them in real time, how are you? Lighter, heavier, better, worse, or the same? But not only that, like I will work with somebody who's been abused hideously
Mm.
for decades. And in this unique perspective of showing them they had choice, but also the power that they had and the power they were using, and the fact that it's like I've seen people transform out of a huge amount of what they were experiencing that was the nonstop trauma and get out of that loop within a half an hour
Mm.
many times. And sorry, my ADHD seems like it's going all over the place, as it does. It's ADHD. What are you going to do? Um, but there's such a if we can look from the place of what is sticking us more than anything else is that we are greater than we're allowing ourselves to know. That we have made choices as beings that go way beyond what we would think we would choose cognitively. But then if we can allow that to inform ourselves and our awareness that cognitive is always limited. What you sense, what you know, what you can perceive is always greater than that. And if we follow that path, we can have an invitation to a more miraculous experience of being alive and a creation of a future that's actually sustainable and thriving.
Okay. Totally track that. Thank you. And beautifully articulated. A couple of other questions that are sort of around. One is these miraculous, spontaneous, you've seen it over hundreds of thousands of people later. It's not like it's a one off of the shifts, right, in their energetic and their facial expression. How does that then relate to some of this trauma still living in the body, right? That
Mm-hmm.
soma intelligence, that wisdom, right? That body keeps the score, Dr. Peter Levine. So curious because I'm recently just a few months into some training on a lot of that stuff, and I've been blessed to not have been sexually or physically abused. Mine was like, it was just my own self criticism. It was so
Mm.
insanely harsh. And then the best friend that I thought was, well, the bully that was actually the best friend in junior high, all those things, right? That informed hypervigilance and all these things that I'm now so present to, and I can just see all those threads. And but my journey has been long, it's been deep, it's been beautiful. I wouldn't change it. But I also got to experience where that was sort of stored unconsciously in my body and just beginning to be present with where it existed, still exists in moments, right? It's a different relational dynamic, is my own experience of it. But I've just got my little myopic point of view. So in your vast, expertise, how would you expand on if there's a question even in there?
Well, let me acknowledge what you're saying. And uh, so there's so much that our bodies, but there's so much that is quote unquote locked into our bodies. But in order to do that, we have to have had a point of view,
Yeah.
many points of view, usually. And
Hmm.
what I found is as we can address those fixed points of view, what our body is able to let go of and transform is miraculous.
Mm.
And so our body, my point of view is our bodies have a consciousness of their own. They're actually conscious, way more aware than we are, you know, way more aware than we allow them to be, because how else can they show us what our points of view are? It's an interesting thing. And so so acknowledging that, and then recognizing that it's different for each individual, though, how you go about accessing and letting go of that, because each of us laid in these things in a different way. We use slightly different bricks to build our house, and so it's really a matter of acknowledging that. But then for certain people, it will be 90% body, 10% head, at like brain, mind, thoughts, whatever. And we have these things, well, we have bars, which I mentioned that were so effective for me personally. And I highly recommend, because we've done studies, we found that the bars dissipate anxiety, stress, and depression, an average of 87% with 1 hour long session.
Like sustainably?
Uh, I don't have an answer. I have an answer on the sustainability as far as self-reported over time, which, but most of those people that are doing that are getting bars, over time also, simply because it feels so good. And it feels like it empties the crap out of your head. But also, when you get an experience that that's possible, it
Mm,
changes what you know is possible. And
mm,
that's the beauty of giving someone an experience of lightness or an experience of
mm,
beyond trauma or into joy is
mm.
you can't have that experience without knowing it's possible anymore?
Yeah.
And so, but also we have these hands-on body processes that we have that are about changing the blueprint of the body. And we also do a thing that we call an abuse hold. And and what it does, it's specifically designed, has this particular energy that leaches abuse out of the body, never to return.
Mm,
So I want to acknowledge everything that you're saying and valid and yes. And and I also once again want to encourage people to not give up on finding what will set you free.
hmm
And freedom is not just one choice in one moment. It's an ongoing sense that now what else can I create? What else can I choose? What else can I change?
hmm
Because we are so much more capable than we've ever given ourselves credit for. And for me, access consciousness is a set of tools to get you there as fast as possible in even given the trenches of life. And however, I don't think everybody should do access. I don't think everybody will be attracted to it. And what I do say is find what's going to work for you. Find what makes you lighter consistently and creates more lightness. Find what brings you more joy, whatever it is. It could be underwater yoga. Who cares? If it's making you happy, if it's creating more lightness, that's more of what's true for you. And also, if you choose more things that make you light on a daily and weekly basis, over time, you'll notice you will get lighter and lighter and lighter. It's not rocket science. Just recognize when something starts to make you heavy and contracted. You're watching a story about the bombings, you're hearing people, and you've decided to go click on this, train on the internet. And before you know it, you feel like you're, going off a cliff and you're so heavy and you're not happy anymore and you don't want to talk to anybody and you don't want to hug anybody. Well, before you get there, stop. Notice that there's a moment where you go from light to heavy or from happy to crappy and stop and go, okay, what can I choose to get my happy back? What can I watch? Who can I talk to? What can I do? This is the choices. These are the simple choices that are within our hands that we need to be willing to have our own back enough to choose because that is what creates a lighter life and living moving forward.
Okay. I'm tracking in my own personal experience as well as just, how I'll also offer up guidance. And this whole my lens of perception, just as another way to look at it, that's a term familiar for me, is recognizing that for like so many years, like 4.5 decades, I ran this victim story about my dad, and he didn't love me the way he loved my other siblings, and I had proof, and of course I was building the evidence, and so if I'm looking for it, that's all I'm going to experience and or see. And then it was my mother, and I'm so grateful for her because she said, "When are you going to stop being a victim?" And I was like, "Oh, I had no interest in identify." I know. I was like, I was so mad. I kicked her out of my car. I drove home. Like, I mean, it was a really pivotal moment for me because by the time I drove back from Santa Barbara to where I lived in LA, I called her and I said, "You're right. I've been a victim my whole life. He's just doing what he does. I get to choose
Wow.
what that means for me." And I have completely transformed my relationship with my father. It's been now 2 years, almost to the day. And it's like a miracle has happened. My body doesn't tense up, it's open and available. Not every time, there's still going to be some little activations, but then I can recognize, oh, that's an old one, right? So I really
Wow.
feel that and so I want to weave then a thread that you offered, which is like, where do you feel more light in life? How would someone even begin to look for that if maybe they're so accustomed to not knowing what that even
Yeah.
could look like? Where would they begin to find that? What are some examples?
Well, the beginning, pardon me, I'm about to sneeze.
Okay.
You know how when you're about to sneeze and then you tell somebody you're about to
And then
sneeze
you
and then
don't
it's sort
sneeze.
of like maybe, maybe not.
And then
I'm
it's
not sure
there.
yet. Yeah, that's what's going on right now. Um, so here's one thing that might help is think of the last time you were happy. What were you doing? Who were you around? What were the conditions? What was the energy? Now, some people, I don't know how other people are, but if I'm in a crappy mood, I was never happy. I've only always and ever been crappy, so it may not be the easiest thing to find, but if you could just think of a moment and here's the other thing is if we can ask for this and then maybe go live our lives a little bit and have a little attention on it, it will show itself to us.
Yes.
But there's a certain sense in that. And I ask people to start writing down a list of things that make you happy. It's not rocket science. It's
Yeah.
like just write down a list of things and people that when you're around them, you get lighter and happier. Because happy and light are very similar.
Yeah.
Light is also, so once again, what's true makes you lighter. Well, what's true makes you happier. It gives you a sense of peace, like, oh yeah, that, you know, like it's gonna be a horrendous example, but I'm gonna use it anyway. Like I was working with a lady who asked somebody she was working with, is my husband cheating on me? And she felt very sort of twisted about it, whatever. Well, she found out he was, and she called me and I'm like, hey, how you doing? She's like, oh my God, it's actually a relief. I've known, but the lies were twisting me up. Now that I know, I at least know what I'm dealing with. And I was like, cool, what are you going to do? She's like, well, I'm going to have a conversation with him. I want to see what this has been for him because I know the part I played that could have created it. I know the part he did, but I don't know his side yet. I'm going to have a talk with him. What was so interesting is the way these two came together in this and were just, it was beautiful the way they both owned up to their stuff and realized it was amazing. So anyway,
Yeah.
the idea that you could hear something like that and still have a sense of lightness is that what's true for you makes you lighter.
Yes.
And we don't even realize this can exist in our world. Once you're past 8 years old, you think everything has to be heavy or something. I don't know. But if you can think of the last time where you were happy and had a sense that things were okay, and then what were you doing? What were the conditions of that? And then what of that am I still capable of that I'm not currently choosing?
Mm.
And the other thing that you can do is you can sort of here's a very simple way of looking at things. So if you were going along happy until, I don't know, let's say 9 months ago, and then all of a sudden things are crappy. Well, right before this, something happened. It's not rocket science. So what I always do is I go, okay, how old are you being, or when did you go from that to this? And then I ask them to explore what occurred. And in the exploration of what occurred, they so often find, oh, I bought a point of view that I couldn't be this happy. Or I was told you're too happy. Or I was around my dad who had this thing going on and I couldn't change it. So I kind of have been in his world ever since trying to change it. Like there are reasons we do these things. And the whole idea of access consciousness is about accessing our consciousness. And we have a definition of consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged.
Mhm.
So if we can recognize, oh, I was happy, and then, World War III looked like it was going to happen, and I bought into everybody's point of view. Cool. Well, everything you did to buy their point of view, will you now let it go, please?
Mhm.
We have a way of doing that called the clearing statement, which is awesome, by the way.
You
And you
want to
can go,
offer it?
yeah,
A
yeah,
clearing statement right
please.
now? I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you going to
No, it's
go there?
great.
Okay. All right. I probably just totally got you off track. Sorry.
No, not at all. I'm 90% off track anyway. So can we do it? Can we do it
Yeah.
with people?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And for those of you who want an explanation of it, you can go to theclearingstatement.com
Mhm.
and there's a short video and a long video. It's all free. It's our gift to you. I say our as in all of us at Access Consciousness as a way of changing your friggin' life. It's amazing. Like in before Access, we had cancel clear. You know that thing where you're like, oh, I just said something and I can feel it sitting in my world like, like a brick. Cancel clear, but it never canceled and it never cleared.
Hmm.
This is actually using quantum physics to change it, using consciousness slash quantum physics to change it. So let's do this. So, everybody out there, when was the last time you were happy? And how much have you decided that you need to be unhappy to be a good person that understands the importance of all the terrible things happening in the world? Because you'd like to be one of those people that helps people. So you need to know where people are suffering in order to help them.
Hmm.
And everything that is and everything you've taken on, will you let it go now, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creations, and beyonds. Now, for those of you out there who are like, what did he just say? As your eyes cross, you can just use POC and POD. Stands for going back to the point of creation of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions immediately preceding your decision to go from, let's say, happy to crappy. And this is us using our consciousness, but also using quantum physics on a really practical level. Because when we're willing to make a different choice, part of what we require is the ability to dissolve our previous choices because we carry them with us into each moment.
Mm.
So, everybody out there who would like something different, but you've decided you can't, you think you can't, you bought that you can't, and how many of you are aware of all the people that can't because they've decided it, and you are trying to take it away and trying to heal it, or also not being willing to be the happy person when nobody else is?
Mm.
Everything that is, and all the trauma you have from being the happy one that was too much, or the one who had too much ease. And so now you're trying to be normal, average, real, and the same as everyone else. Will you let that go, please?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 100, shorts, boys, povads, bases, creations, and beyonds.
Pod and pock.
Pod and pock. Yeah. And it sounds like gobbledygook when you say the whole thing, but each thing is short for, an entire paragraph or page or two of material.
Mm.
But it's there for everybody. Pock and pod and pock, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the order. But from now on, all of you, if you do something and you're like, no, pock and pod that, pock and pod that. How does it get any better than this? What else is possible? Pock and pod that. If you don't know what else to do, try this. See if it lightens it up, and you'll know in the moment when it gets lighter.
Okay, yeah, exactly, because you will feel lighter. And I think that's our best, sort of measurement, if you will.
Yes.
Question just kind of popped in, and it's maybe for the skeptics that are listening, and a part of me probably resonates. So they'll just ask it. Could this, though, be part of also a big conversation being had right now around the whole? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you think that you're part of like a new age or self-development sort of genre, your work?
Well, eh, I have no idea.
Okay,
I
I
don't
didn't
know
know. I
if I
didn't
would.
know if it was classically classified under that. I come from a
Oh,
steady
dear Lord,
diet of
no.
that, so but these days, my experience of that and or sense of that is that it feels very sort of here up, disembodied, and more of sort of like just a total bypassing thing because I'm just so aware of what's in my body, been in the body, and is very much longing to be released from the body. So yes, I get that I'm casting
Yes.
magical spells on myself as I say it, but at the same time, these things actually happen too. So I'm just curious, like, what about those that may be having some curious skepticism around what about the body? What about the
Oh,
embodiment piece?
totally. Well, let me say I love curious skepticism. Okay. Um, so much. And a huge element of what Access is about is questioning everything. But being the question, doubt and question are not the same thing, by the way.
Fair.
But if you have doubt, then ask enough questions to satisfy that before you do whatever you're going to do. But Access is one of the only things I found where we actually include the body. Most of every spiritual thing I had ever done, the only time they included the body was from a level of significance, like Tantra will do. And Tantra is supposed to be, and I apologize, I probably stepped on toes with that. Let's just say that there are elements of significance that start to diminish the direct engagement with the energetics that's possible.
Yeah.
But access actually dynamically includes the body, acknowledges the body, gets it there's a gift to the body, and recognizes there's a lot locked into the body. So, yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm so grateful for questions like this or questions people think they have or they're being a skeptic or whatever. I'm like, ask those. We all need to ask those of everything because that little voice in our head that makes us want to ask a question about something is our awareness. And we either have awareness of, oh, there's some awareness I need to know that this is actually what they're saying it is, or there's some awareness I have that this is bullshit. Either one, you want to know. So I say always ask, please, please, please. And this is not just about access, this is about everything in our lives. Always ask. The difficulty is most people aren't willing to have a present, vulnerable enough conversation with you if you do ask about something that they're not comfortable talking about.
Mhm.
Why would somebody not be comfortable talking? Well, either because of trauma or because they're hiding something. Or, it's like, so from any of these points, we could have, multiple conversations, but it's really about the presence that we can be with all of this,
Yes.
including our bodies and each other, and
Yes.
being able to be vulnerable with everything that comes up and not have to prove anything, not have to prove that we're perfect, and also not have to prove that we're all fucked up,
Right.
you
Exactly.
know?
Yes. Yes. I'm really grateful for this part of the conversation, especially because you just sort of a little teeny thread, and it was around, well, let's have a conversation about it. But sometimes that's not available for someone because of their own trauma, because of their own secrets, right? And these days, as I'm learning so much about nervous system work as our living
Mm,
process and starting to just recognize even stress responses in others, in myself, not calling anything out, but just being like, oh, I have so much more capacity to of course, be with me, all parts of me, but I have more capacity to be with others and recognize what we all carry consciously, unconsciously informs our ability to be able to even have a conversation around that hurt, that sucked, that
yeah.
didn't feel right. And it's just like, if we can learn how to just be with ourselves, the parts that we hide, the part that we want to stuff and suppress, we can be with anyone's stuff. And there for me is really the magic of where I am in my life right now. And I may be kind of leaning into the shadow right now because it's been my pathway, because it's newer for me, but it's also given me so much more capacity. And what does that mean? Compassion. What does that mean? Light. What does that mean?
Mm,
Infinite possibility.
hmm.
And so I can see how important this work is for me. And so I was like noticing my little healthy, curious skeptic coming up of like, what about this though? And you're saying, no, it all gets to belong, but there's just different tiers and there's different awarenesses of even where we are on that journey. And then as we are growing in our own capacity, we have the beauty of being able to recognize where someone else might be on theirs without being hierarchical or
Yeah.
judgmental or condescending. And therein lies a whole bunch of other threads, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're
That.
welcome. Thank you for allowing me to kind of process that out loud and kind of speak to kind of giving an anchor point to this beautiful work that you're doing without maybe me wondering how out there is that or disembodied could that be? And I feel like we just got a chance to really tether that
Mm.
in a way that feels more real for me, just by asking some simple questions. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I am grateful also. And I want to emphasize that asking of questions thing because we were not taught that that was a gift to people. We were taught, come up with the right answer, otherwise you're a bad student. Come up with the right answer, otherwise you're a bad kid. It was like, and so I want to just also, I just want to put another exclamation point to your exclamation point of us doing that, having the willingness, at least for us, to ask questions about those things that come up that we have doubts or points of view about, even if, and let's also allow ourselves to be aware enough of whether we can have the conversation with the person in front of us or not, or if they're going to shut us down, And we might also recognize if we do ask them a question and they shut us down, we got the answer, you know, in
Yeah.
that moment,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I talked about earlier, like an open heart does not flinch. And
Hmm.
I'm really recognizing that I've had some pretty tough things on my path for me to see about myself, but then the way in which things were, mm, just the unfoldment of it, and I was like so proud of myself for how I chose to be, you know, and even though there were some things that felt accurate, but like, oh, but here's why that was happening, right? That's the part of the conversation that I think is so juicy, not to justify, but like, let's meet there because I want to
Mm.
meet you there, right? And that's the part that I think I'm just most lit up about right now in life is just, yeah, it's just so incredibly epic to be human and to be walking this path, the magic and all of it. Is there anything there that you want to add, or otherwise I can move into probably the last little bit of where I want
Mm.
to potentially guide us?
No, the only thing I'd like to say is, are you really human or are you more of a humanoid?
Mm. Would you like to expand on that? I mean, I have an immediate answer, but I don't exactly know where you're coming from. So
I
let's,
know exactly. That's the fun part where you're like, what are you saying? I got an answer. But
yeah.
so we've found there appear to be two different species on the planet,
Hmm.
humans and humanoids. Humans are the ones that don't believe in anything outside of the box of normal or what they've been told, have no desire for anything beyond it, and also tend to be in judgment of everyone and everything else, but they always think they're right and you're wrong. Now, then you have the humanoids, the seekers of the world, the people that always have to be doing 6 to 10 things, otherwise they get bored. They can hold a job for between 3 weeks and 3 months, and then they lose it because they're bored. And then they always think that they're flighty, and they've been told, "Can't you do anything normal?" And they're like, "No, I'm not normal." And the humanoids are always like, "If this is all there is, why are we here? What else is possible? Let's create some change here. How can we do this differently? How can we make the world a greater place?" The humanoids are the ones that their hearts truly feel like they're breaking when they see others suffer and when we have things like war and they don't get it. The humans are like, "Hey, I'm right. They're wrong." Now, everything that brought up for everybody, and everybody like, "You're trying to get people to choose sides." No, I'm trying to get you to recognize that as a seeker in the world, you're just wired differently, and it's okay.
Hmm.
And if you embrace the gift that you're wired differently
Hmm.
and stop trying to make yourself be wrong for not being able to be normal and not understand drama in the way you're supposed to, and not understand why people don't get that there's this whole universe beyond what we can see, you don't have to make you wrong because others don't get it. They're just a different species.
Hmm.
Everything that is times a godzillion, right, wrong, about all 100, or just let's pock and pot all that stuff.
Hmm.
Now, part of the reason for this conversation about the humans and humanoids is because the humanoids of the world, the people that are listening to this podcast primarily, okay, and sorry, I'm not trying to put you in a box. I'm just saying it so you can come to your own awareness because you probably never heard this conversation before. They tend to think they're judgmental.
Hmm.
Okay. They tend to think they're judgmental, but the only person they ever really judge is themselves.
Yep.
But they can pick up on energetically other people's judgments and they will think those are theirs. So I want to give one tool to you humanoids, you seekers in the world. And this we could also talk about for an entire podcast. But one tool I want to give you is if you've ever had the thought, oh my God, I'm so judgmental, that means you're not actually judgmental. Why? Because somebody who truly is judgmental never thinks, oh my God, I'm so judgmental. They
Hmm.
just know they're right.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. So I just want to point that out. And by the way, for each thing I say, it can come across in a certain way based on, your whatever life you've lived and whatever filters you have. And I just want to make a blanket statement. I am never desiring to make anybody wrong. I have no desire to do that. I have no desire to be right. And also, I want to say, please do not follow me ever. Follow you. You are the only one that knows what's true for you. And when you follow that, everything gets greater for you and all of us.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, that's a gorgeous place to land. Although I am very curious for you to share anything that you feel called to or not around Elugar.
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
and
girl.
how is this connected or is it connected to Access Consciousness? And we'll link Access Consciousness and your books and all the amazing things that you do in the show notes because we didn't really get too much into all of that. Really, this is a broad stroke, I think, on really just embodying the humanoid that we really
Mm,
are and being more curious about ourselves and others with that lens and finding more light, looking for more light without bypassing all of the parts that make this life so interesting. That's kind of my
mm.
summary in real time.
I love it. That's great.
Okay, good. Yeah, it felt right.
Awesome.
And but yeah, so now because when I was on the website for El Lugar, I'm
Mm.
like, how do I go there? Like right now, like I want to just broadcast from there
Yes, come.
live. Is that where
Can
you are right now?
no, this is actually my backyard in Houston. But
What?
Ellegar looks and feels a lot like that. And
Are those real plants behind you?
uh yeah,
Oh my goodness. Wow, that
all of
is
them.
beautiful. I don't know why
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that they would be real, but I just thought I'd
I
ask. 'Cause
know, right?
yeah, they were in the breeze a moment ago, right? They
Yeah,
were. I
yeah,
didn't
and it was
imagine that.
raining.
Okay. There's been a lot happening in this conversation.
That's,
I'm just
that's
trying to
not
track
true.
it.
We're getting a lot in. That is very true.
We are.
So
Okay.
Ellegar
Mhm.
in Spanish means the place. My friend Gary wrote a beautiful book. I keep referring to my friend Gary. He's the co-creator of Access, the creator, founder, and we're co-creators for 25 years. Um, but he wrote a book called The Place, which was about a place where this guy goes, he's in an accident, he needs help, and these people show up and transport him to this place that is about this what humanoid embodiment should be able to be and could be, which is a place of communion, a place where each person knows that they're magical and they use their gifts to contribute to everybody, a place where people live basically indefinitely. So anyway, we having this book is one of those that when you read it, at least for me, I read it and it is an acknowledgement. It's kind of like when I read what's the book by Paulo Coelho?
The
The
Alchemist?
prophet? Yeah. What
The
was it?
Alchemist.
The Alchemist. Yes.
Yes.
Like when you read a book like that and your whole world just kind of goes,
Yeah.
this is like that on a different level. So anyway, we had been going down to Costa Rica for events for years, and the place we were going to closed down. And so we started looking for someplace, and that was our initial search. And it was where the place had to have a particular energy to it that was nurturing, that was like the earth used to be or can be and still is in certain places.
Mhm.
Anyway, we found that. And on one side where we built is 100 acres, 110 hectares. On the other side, it's got 1,200. And when you go there, it is like being nurtured by the land in such a dynamic way, but also we've gone down to Costa Rica and gone to eco resorts, which means you get one light bulb that's 15 watts LED. You get one towel that's as big as a washcloth. You get cold water and they tell you it's eco-friendly. I'm like, no, it's cheap ass. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what we wanted was to create elegance in communion with nature,
Mhm.
with space. All of the bungalows are separated, but
Mhm.
there's a space
Mhm.
I can't even, it's indescribable, literally. People who go there, like you've talked about it, I didn't believe it, and I have not been able to get it now that I'm here. Oh my God. So, also, what we did is we worked within we have a guy who finds the most amazing technology. So, we're literally heating the water with heat exchangers that pulls heat out of the air to heat the water, which means we have nonstop heated water. We got our electricity footprint down to about 1/25th of what it would have been by using another technology that he found. And so we're using all of this behind the scenes technology to dynamically minimize our footprint. But here's the other interesting part. There are lots, so there's 100 acres on this side of the river, which is where all the buildings are. The other unbuilt part is on the other side, and we have cows and horses and stuff over there, and some of the best horseback riding in the world. There's a river that separates them, but what we've had is over the last 2 years that we've been doing construction, we have had hundreds of animals come from the other side, the rainforest side of the river to the resort and move in.
Yeah.
Animals don't go where there are buildings and people to live because they're not being fed by anybody. They're
Mm,
still eating. It's not about them being fed. It's
mm.
about the space of communion that's there.
Well,
So
and the energy. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
beautiful. The communion. That is so gorgeous. I love that. Do you know anything about the gene keys?
No.
Oh, well, anyway, it's a spiritual technology that I just happen to really, yeah, grow from, and um, and my highest essence, like the Siddhic essence in Sanskrit, the divine, is communion. And
Mm,
it's yes, being initiated into the mystical way that is the only way, right? But also just like letting life be easy by being in synergy with all beings, all life. So what you're describing here, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I think I gotta go. So is this open to the public yet?
oh yeah.
Okay. All
Yes.
right, cool. Do you do
Come.
events there? Yeah, I
Yes.
will. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll
And
track you. We're gonna have to get it like a field trip, me and Fire and Soul community.
come, baby. Come on down.
It's gonna be so
Yeah.
fun.
When we have when we have finished the conference center, it will be one of the biggest it'll be the biggest conference center that also has accommodation in all of Costa Rica.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Do you
so
serve
excited.
plant medicine or is that an interest?
It not in the structured way,
Okay, all right.
more of a yeah, more of that sense of communion and letting them talk to me and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay, got it. Ooh, I love that. Is there anything else that you feel called to share or that you wish you had been asked?
Oh my goodness. We could talk for hours on that. No, I would just say, look, we're far more capable than
Mm,
we've been pretending, and life gets so much more fun when we start to embrace that possibility. And truly, what is right about you that maybe you've been invited to look at as we've been talking about this and come play. There's so much fun to be had. Let's enjoy the world and let's enjoy creating the world's future together.
yeah. Mm. And so it is. Thank you.
So it is.
Yes.